In late 2013, bank safety cameras in Ukraine captured some truly unbelievable footage. One of the ATM machines appeared to be dispensing cash randomly, even though nobody had added a bank or even touched a single button. As passers-by eagerly scooped up the piles of cash, the bank scrambled to find out what the hell was going on. Shortly, they'd find out that an errant ATM was the least of their troubles. They'd fallen prey to one of the greatest cyber attacks ever. Hackers had been operating behind the scenes for decades. Plus they had stolen $850 million online. As soon as the Ukrainian bank became conscious of their ATM's bizarre behavior, they enlisted the help of Russian cybersecurity company Kaspersky Labs to arrive at the bottom of this embarrassing and costly problem. Kaspersky's specialist technicians went to work, and they soon found that the ATMs were not just malfunctioning, they had been hacked and rigged to spit out large amounts of cash at randomly chosen times. They immediately realized that they were dealing with something much larger than a couple of ATMs. They had stumbled upon one of their most sophisticated and largest cyber crimes ever. Along with the ATMs were just the tip of this iceberg. The diligent technicians determined that a group of exceptionally skilled professional hackers was supporting these astonishing attacks. The attacks did not seem to be the function of any one country or nation-state. Rather, the experts decided that a tightly knit and highly sophisticated ring of cyber criminals out of Russia, China and elsewhere were to blame for its unruly ATMs and a lot more attacks. Besides, the team, dubbed the Carbon X Cyber Gang after the malicious software they used in their strikes, had stolen over $850 million from hundreds of banks all over the world. As technicians continued their analysis, they came to understand that these attacks had been going on for decades, which the team had targeted numerous banks in countries all over the world. The attacks continued even as Kaspersky Labs technicians discovered an increasing number of proof of the hackers' actions. As they discovered the particulars of the hackers' offenses, the group continued to steal tens of thousands of dollars a day from the world's monies. Component of why the hackers were able to successfully rob so many banks for many years without raising suspicion is that they used multiple different strategies within their thefts, making it difficult to connect their different raids back to a single source. The Carbon X Cyber Gang had three major plans for robbing the unsuspecting banks. The first, naturally, was that the rigged ATMs. The cyber gangsters were able to hack into the bank's ATM networks. And from tens of thousands of miles away, they can rig the machines to randomly dispense cash randomly for specific machines to spit piles of money without requiring a bank to be inserted or other buttons to be pressed. All hackers would have to do to station someone nearby to scoop up their haul, and they might walk away with tens of thousands of dollars. And, since passers-by often got in on the fun, the hackers could take their money and vanish into the audience, allowing them to get away unnoticed. While rigging ATMs were a suitable method for the hackers to access their hordes of stolen cash, it was also an extremely visible and questionable strategy. They often had to battle against bystanders for their day. The hackers had other, more advanced tricks up their sleeves, however. A more innovative tactic involved gaining entry to the balances of the bank's customers and using them to funnel stolen funds into the hackers' hands. After the hackers had infiltrated the bank's network, they would implement a scheme that involved significantly inflating the equilibrium of a customer's accounts before moving them surplus funds into their accounts. For instance, a client's account might have had an initial balance of $1,000 before the hackers got a grip of it and inflated the balance to $10,000. The hackers could subsequently transfer $9,000 to their accounts, along with the customer would be none the wiser because their equilibrium would appear to have remained unchanged. The largest sums of cash were stolen from the boldest and most sophisticated online raids. When the hackers had gained access to the bank's internal system, they had the ability than simply alter bank account balances. With unfettered access to the bank's internal workings, the hackers were able to initiate substantial cash transfers from your bank's accounts in their own account if the bank's internal cash transfer system. Using the bank's accounts meant they didn't have to be concerned about transfer limitations or large trade alerts on personal accounts. Rather, they were frequently able to make off with countless dollars from one raid, and from the time the banks detected what had occurred, the hackers had been long gone, enjoying their spoils hundreds of kilometers off. These approaches were incredibly rewarding for hackers. Losses per bank ranged from between $2.5 million on the low end around $10 million or more. For a few of the hardest hit associations, one bank reported that $10 million were stolen through one raid of the online stage, while the other bank dropped $7.3 million throughout the gang's ATM scheme. Altogether, the Carbonac cyber gang is thought to possess stolen upwards of €1 billion from the world's financial institutions. Rigging ATMs and funneling thousands of dollars through customer accounts is one thing, but stealing tens of millions in the bank's accounts is another. How on earth did the hackers get away with such audacious crimes? Part of it has to do with geography. Over 2 years, the hackers spanned over 100 distinct banks in 30 distinct countries around the world, making it nearly impossible to link the attacks to one group and allowing the hackers to stay one step ahead of their banks along with the government. The majority of the targeted banks were located in Russia, Ukraine, and China, even though the hackers also struck banks in the USA, Germany, and many other countries. Stolen funds were funneled into fraudulent destination accounts that were also concealed worldwide. Much of their stolen money ended up in accounts in the US, China, and Russia. The hackers could get away with their schemes for so long because they targeted themselves, not the bank's customers. Had the hackers were slipping directly from clients' accounts, the clients could have been quick to notice and also to raise the alert. And the banks could have had no option but to investigate and publicly admit the theft. By targeting the bank's internal balances rather, the embarrassed banks were excited to keep the details of the thefts under wraps, which made it improbable that they would connect their particular robbery to raids in other banks, and more difficult for researchers to realize the true size and extent of those attacks immediately. While targeting the banks and hitting targets worldwide surely helped the hackers keep a low profile, their very best weapon was their incredible patience. According to Chris Doggett, Kaspersky Labs' North American Managing Director, most cyber offenders simply smash their way to a system, take whatever they could catch quickly, and run before they get captured. It would often take the hackers between 2 and 4 months to complete a single juvenile, and their procedure was highly complex. Kaspersky Labs' Doggett notes the Carbonac raids were particularly problematic for banks, because it did not matter what software the banks utilized, the hackers could discover a way in. Even the most innovative proprietary software revealed no match for the hackers, who had been using a rather straightforward method for gaining entry to the bank's internal networks, a fantastic old-fashioned phishing email. Phishing is among the oldest types of cyber attacks, dating back to the 1990s. And it is still among the most widespread cybersecurity dangers. Americans alone eliminate $57 million per year to phishing scams. What the Carbonac cyber gang was performing was a complex version of phishing known as spear phishing. Care was taken to craft legitimate-looking bogus emails that could appear to have come out of a colleague inside the bank and also fool the unsuspecting receiver to some a false sense of safety. After they'd clicked on the link and also the malicious Carbonac applications was launched in the bank's system, it would be almost impossible to find and include it. The complex software was able to function independently, which makes its way through the bank's internal networks, infecting computer following computer until it found its true target, the computers of employees accountable for the bank's internal accounting and cash transfer systems. This is the point where the hackers' extreme patience paid off. Once they'd gained access for their target's computers, the hackers could subsequently spend weeks and even months spying on the bank's employees and gathering intel regarding the bank's operations and patterns before they stole a single dollar. This wealth of data made it possible for the hackers to carefully watch the bank's employees perform internal transactions, which they can then mimic perfectly in their distant locations. Just after months of spying and reviewing countless videos and images of their bank's operations did the hackers infiltrate the system to finish their own transactions. Undoubtedly, the banks could detect the lost money in short order. However, by mirroring internal procedures exactly, the hackers made the theft look like an accounting error or an inside job. The banks recognized that they'd been assaulted. The hackers could have moved on for their next goal. The stolen funds will subsequently be removed with the rigged ATMs, moved to fraudulent accounts from other countries, or laundered using cryptocurrencies and prepaid credit cards to hide the capital's origin and make it almost impossible to trace back the money to the hackers. The hackers would subsequently utilize the laundered money to buy luxury goods like automobiles and even houses, adding yet another layer of deception and making it harder to trace the funds. According to Europol, the Carbon X cyber gang has been behind the theft of more than €1,000. Because they started their attacks, nearly all the funds were taken from financial institutions. However, in 2017, the hackers changed tactics and began targeting the hospitality business, too, stealing millions from restaurants and retail organizations, and even hurt point-of-sale systems. This shift in the plan may have spelled the beginning of the end for the Carbon X cyber gang, though. The man, identified only as Dennis K., was a Ukrainian nationwide who was arrested in Spain. The case is still pending, but Europol credits this high-profile detained a powerful collaboration between international law enforcement agencies. The arrest of one of the leaders hasn't seemed to slow the Carbon X cyber gang. They continue to raid financial institutions and other businesses, stealing tens of millions of dollars annually from banks and businesses worldwide. Their tactics are still evolving and grow more sophisticated. They have even inspired a series of copycat cyber gangs who are utilizing similar plans and applications to ease their particular adventuresome cyber raids. The arrest of Dennis K. might happen to be a big triumph for law enforcement, but the fight against cyber gangs is far from over. We hope you are learning something new every day from our videos. If you want us to cover a specific topic, let us know in the comments section below. We are doing our bit to spread awareness about the common health conditions and exciting topics. Do your part by sharing this video with your friends and social circle. Thank you. Get value by subscribing our Get Value channel. Thank you.